Hello everybody, it's Mystic and welcome back to my library. It's been a while since I've posted a video, and if you missed my community post explaining why, definitely go check that out. Real quick, I'm just going to summarize. I have decided that I am going to go back to pursuing professional dog training as a career. It was actually something I looked into back in January of 2020, and then for obvious reasons, I had to kind of put that on the back burner to help my kids during the pandemic, and there wasn't really anything open to do any training at. So I am kind of back to pursuing that. Working with dogs has always been a passion of mine. And content creation, it got me through the pandemic. I'm really grateful to it, but I do want to start, pursuing an actual career goal of mine. So videos and content creation is just going to become more of a very occasional hobby thing. I know I just started a bunch of new games, but it's just how it worked out. So yeah, if you missed that, that's why I'm not posting as much anymore. And Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky is going to be it's going to just become an offline for fun game for me, rather than trying to find time to post it on here, because I just don't think I'm going to have the time to focus on it like I would really like to. So long story short, that you can go and see the actual post in the community section, but let's get started on the game. I think I am going to do Ghost today. The night was incredibly still. You really couldn't ignore how silent it was. It was almost eerie. You could even hear Lizzie snoring in the next room over. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, I decided not to do a camera for this series because there's really just no place to put it without my face blocking somebody. So I'm not going to be doing camera anymore for this one. It was hard to believe how much of a blur today was. Summer sure did slip right past you. You flicked through the movements like pages in a scrapbook as you laid in bed. You thought a lot about what adventures you could have tomorrow until sleep started to catch up to you. Then you heard something scrape against the window. It wasn't that uncommon for the wind to push a tree branch against the glass. Summer breezes were the worst sometimes. But the more you tried to ignore it, the louder it seemed like it became. It was like something was trying to get your attention. You lifted your head off the pillow to get a better look. Nothing was there. Nothing you could see, at least. You just went back to bed. It was only your imagination, or you had to investigate the mysterious sound. It's too creepy to ignore. Honestly, child me would have just gone to sleep. I probably would have either been one, too scared to look and just like covered my head with the blanket, or just, decided it was probably the wind. I don't know. I would not have been the kid to go and like inspect it. You tried again to close your eyes and go to sleep, but the unknown scratching sound didn't stop. It left your heart pounding. You couldn't ignore it anymore. You had to check it out. You went to talk. I absolutely would go and tell my parents. Your nerves were wound tight, ready to burst. Sleeping like this was not an option, and neither was waiting for whatever it was to make its next move. You took a deep breath, then cast the covers aside and left out of bed. You were out of the room, down the stairs, and into the still brightly lit safety of the living room in a matter of moments.
Are you okay?
Christina, what's wrong, sweetie? Your entrance had been swift, but it had not been silent. That was good. Your moms hurried to your side while you were catching your breath. The TV show they were watching continued to play in the background. You told them you were scared. You acted tough. You didn't let it get to you. You didn't let it get to you more. I'm going to say you're scared. You reached to the closest parent and clung to her for dear life. There's a loud noise coming from the window. Aw, did it frighten you? Yeah. Mommy crouched down and held your hand as Mom wrapped her arms around you. You felt the concern slip away. Nothing bad could happen while you were with your moms.
You all right with that?
Why don't the three of us go upstairs and check together? We'll see what's causing the racket. Good plan. Christina, you can be brave and show us where the sound was coming from. We want to be extra specially sure that we've checked thoroughly. You nodded. Mom released you from the hug and with a proud look. You led them back to your room, still clutching Mommy's hand. Stopped in the doorway, you pointed to the window. It came from there, but I couldn't see anything. I'll go investigate. She flicked the light on with a click. Your heart leapt in your chest as Mom approached the window, kneeling on your bed. She made a show of inspecting the area from every angle. I don't see anything either. Something was there, I heard it. All right, you and Mommy stay back there and I'll keep looking. I have to go outside, but it'll be done in a jiffy. If it's the wind, we'll have to do our best to sleep through the sounds. If it's something else, it won't be there for much longer. She winked at you and punched the one palm with the fist of her other hand. Wait. You gave her a flashlight. You gave her a roll of paper. You gave her a stuffed animal. You gave her another hug. Probably would give her a flashlight. You stepped into the room and rummaged in the drawers next to your bed. If Mom was going to take on whatever she had been at your window, she would have to see some way to see what's happening. This'll help. Smiling, Mom accepted your offer.
Not bad.
It sure will. Thanks, Christina. Mom then boldly left your room to put an end to the mystery. You scurried back to Mommy, who brushed your hair reassuringly. After a little while, your racing heart began to return to its normal pace and your eyelids grew heavy.
It's okay.
You might be comfier back on the bed. I can keep watch. Okay. Let's get you all settled in, nice and safe. Mommy made a nest of pillows and cushions, which you eagerly snuggled into. Your head was elevated so you can see the window. At least you could when you could keep your eyes open. Mommy sat beside the bed, still stroking your hand. Mom and I can take care of this. You just worry about getting enough sleep for tomorrow. I know it'll be another big day. Before you could even think of doing otherwise, you drifted off to sleep. When you woke the next morning, it took a few moments to remember the events from the night before. Your moms weren't there right now, but you were feeling better. With the light sunshine glowing against the back of your curtains, it didn't seem so dangerous anymore. You hopped out of bed and headed down to breakfast, finding your parents already seated at the dining table. Mommy with a giant cup of coffee in her hands and Mom with her nose in some papers.
How are you?
Good morning, honey. Were you able to sleep well? Yes. I dreamt I was a penguin sliding across the snow on my belly. Honestly, it sounds like a dream I would have had. Mommy smiled at you fondly, holding back a laugh.
How are you?
No more strange occurrences to report. Uh-huh. My investigation didn't turn up anything either. It must have been more scared of us than we were of it and ran off. I think you might be right, Pam. Sit down and have some breakfast while the toast is still warm. What kind of topping would you like? Jam, peanut butter, honey, just butter, extra butter. Love putting peanut butter on my toast. It is how I eat breakfast every day, and it has been how I've eaten toast since I can remember. Sure. Mommy slid the jar over to you and you dug in, grabbing a slice of toast and spreading the nutty-smelling butter over it. After breakfast, you decided to take a walk to the playground to get some fresh air. As you headed towards the playground, taking off your shoes so the soft sand squished between your toes, you spotted a familiar head of green hair. Cove was sitting on one of the swings, but he wasn't swinging at all, and when you moved closer, you noticed that his eyes were closed. Cove, you made an awkward noise to try and get his attention. You poked him, you shook him. I would just say his name. Positioning yourself in front of him, you can see he was breathing softly and his glasses had fallen down his nose. After a moment or two, you realized he couldn't hear you, so you said his name again, a little louder this time. Cove! This time he stirred, letting out a soft groan at the interruption. Then Cove yawned and pushed his glasses back up in his nose, blinking sleepily against the bright sun. Were you asleep? I think so. I'm tired. I didn't sleep very well last night. There were these weird noises outside. You looked at him in shock, your heart beating faster in your chest and your palms beginning to sweat. Could Cove have heard the same thing as you? What kind of noises? Cove was quiet for a moment, his nose crinkled in thought. Like scratching, like clawing against the side of the house, trying to climb up it. I went outside to check. Really? That was brave. You did? That sounds like it was risky. What did you find? Yeah, this one. It made you feel a little sheepish knowing Cove had gone out to investigate on his own while you had your mom look, but that didn't change how amazed you were by it. He was taken aback by your assessment.
Thanks.
Did you find anything? Cove shrugged simply at the question, his mouth set in a grin line. Nothing. The sound stopped. That's a relief. That's disappointing. It's a relief. You let out a breath, happy that Cove didn't have an encounter with anything sinister lurking in the streets. The thought of it really being nothing gave you comfort, and you knew you'd find it easier to sleep that night. After that, the rest of the afternoon went by pretty normally with Cove and you spending a little more time at the park together. That evening, when it started to grow dark once more, you thought back on what Cove had told you, how he didn't find anything outside his house during the night. You held on to that memory, letting it comfort you and keep you brave when you went to bed, knowing that you had nothing to fear. Okay, so that was Ghost. So we have, 6 left? How about Sandcastle? Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him, and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon, not with his cast. The waves washed a single shell to the shore, glittering in blue, another reminder of the places he couldn't go. From what you'd heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. The possibilities of what he might get up to made you anxious. You thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and dad. But now he was here with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go in the sea. This town wasn't bad and had all your favorite things in it, but sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly, and he finally said aloud what you'd been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You'll be able to go in soon enough. Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. It's so pretty, the ocean. And huge. There could be anything out there. Oh, wait, I'm reading the wrong voice. Not that I'm really voice acting, but I kind of have like a voice specifically for Cove, and I just reversed him and Shiloh. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids. Yeah. I wish you didn't have a cast. I don't really care. Swimming might be fun if we could. I'm fine here on land. Mermaids aren't real. I'm fine here on land. All right. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles of sand before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well then, how do you do it? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. I love making sand stuff. I've never really made one before. There's nothing else to do. I love making sand stuff. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Shiloh focused more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. That's all kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine's gonna be a real castle. Cool. This is gonna be a house. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make a house, a castle, a mansion. I'm gonna make a castle. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to build a fancy castle. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you'd built. It seems you got done so fast because they already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of shelves, but there were still options. The first thing you reached for was a red bottle cap, a blue seashell, or a green piece of sea glass. Blue is my favorite color, so seashell. It was the best fit for your castle, you decided. The blue color of it still reminded you of the clear water, so you tucked it away somewhere secure inside, barely poking out to make sure it didn't get lost. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. Let's check. You decided not to look. Let's check out Cove's. The castle Cove had built looked surprisingly tidy, especially for someone in a cast. He must have worked really hard. He wasn't even finished digging the huge gaping moat in front, but it was already enormous. You got the sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with that the doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he finally removed the pink plaster. The silence was then broken. What's on top of yours, Shiloh? You peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke.
Neat.
It's good. That's smart. Yeah, I didn't think of that. I guess I still don't see it. You should be an architect. Kind of looks more like a worm. You should be an architect. You'd be good at it, Shiloh. Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was that for the current topic. Christina, can I see what you did? Sure. He began surveying your work. The castle you'd built was pretty impressive, all things considered. It had archways, tall walls, and even a little moat circling it. You could probably feel safe living there. Maybe your moms were the queens. Shiloh quickly decided to jump in the new conversation. Hey, Christina, what did you do? I made a castle. Shiloh didn't look so happy anymore. You both built castles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Aw, that's neat how much you guys match. It's too bad we all didn't do it. Next time we should. Wouldn't that be boring? If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People, too. My dad always says how everybody is their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off again. There was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he'd notice that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Christina? You blinked, not expecting the question. You thought hard. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remembered what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he kind of still was a weird stranger. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh, well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Christina's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him, though giving people their own turn to say the things they want is important too. You stay silent and let Cove finish. Yeah, I feel like I probably should, because I always tell my kids not to interrupt when people are talking, like to let them finish their thought and then they can talk. So I kind of want to let Cove finish and then let Shiloh talk after that. Shiloh could talk about stuff after Cove had a chance to share what he planned on. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us, only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand and went over to the front of your house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said. I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time. Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Is that it? Cove's brow wrinkled, like he didn't understand why you were surprised. That's all that happened. Okay, why did you want to tell the story if nothing happened? You really got to get better. That was a pretty bad story. Thanks for telling me. You're welcome. Even if not much happened, you weren't going to complain about not knowing the story. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulders.
Well,
I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved to here. Dad showed me the beach first before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through his sand. I get it. You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh, fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand, had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you can only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I don't know, I guess. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment. Aw, poor kid, and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it was only this, perhaps it was simply the last straw, but it was a big deal to Shiloh, a huge deal. He didn't look sad. Oh wait, what did I do? Oh, I used the mouse wheel by mistake. He didn't just look sad, he seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got an answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody is named Cove.
who asked you to come?
Who asked you to come? It was probably just your dad bugging Christina's family some more because you don't have anyone else here who will play with you. Wow, you guys are being mean. Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't even know how to mention. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about, though you hadn't even known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. Me too. I was just wondering. Let's build another sandcastle. You tried to play on your own. Are we going to build more? Let's build another sandcastle. The day's going to be over soon. Ah, Christina, you're right. The sun is going down so fast. You all went back to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least she tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it had helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head back to your houses. You followed him as he made his way out of the sand. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near-perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. You asked Cove what he's thinking. The prospect of asking made you nervous, but you did it anyway. Hey, is everything okay? Oh, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few more seconds, then sighed. Why did Shiloh act like that when I said he was read a lot? You were being rude. He was just being a baby. You shouldn't make fun of him. I don't know, it's just Shiloh. He gets embarrassed. He gets embarrassed. Embarrassed, but I didn't say anything that bad. It might have upset him anyway. I guess. I can get it. Why he would do that? Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. What Shiloh said didn't make any sense anyway. Parents always talk to other parents and set stuff up for their kids to play together. My dad didn't do anything weird. You struggle not to make a face at that. His dad definitely did something weird to try and get you to spend time with Cove. But Cove didn't know that. Nobody's making me spend time with you. Your dad does do stuff, so you'll hang out with my family, but Shiloh shouldn't have said that. You decided to... I don't want to tell him about the money. I'm going to say that because I feel like at this point, he and I actually are friends. Cove's shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had tensed up. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyway, I knew the whole time Shiloh shouldn't have been saying things like that. You nodded, but you didn't speak. You kept your eyes firmly on the ground. By now, the two of you were on the sidewalk near your houses. It was time to part ways. Bye, Cove. Your parents hadn't planned anything else for you, though you knew that you'd see him eventually. Cove nodded, already turning away. Bye, Christina. You made your way to the house at a leisurely pace, going up the driveway to get to the front door. Before you went inside, you looked back. Cove was halfway to his house, and his hands shoved in his pockets. You still felt a little unsure about with what you were supposed to do about the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad or something you shouldn't. You might change your mind sometime. There was always tomorrow after all, but for now it was definitely something that you'd like to keep to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. Okay. How about long day? It was another scorching summer day, the kind where no sooner you had finished up one cup of water and you were already filling it up again. Everyone else had something on, so that afternoon it was just you and Shiloh. This didn't happen much, especially since Cove had arrived. Without Lizzie around, Shiloh looked to you for all the answers. It made you feel pleased, frustrated, nothing really. Probably pleased. I kind of like being able to explain things to people. You might not be in double digits like your sister, but he was only 7. Being the oldest and getting to be the leader was a nice change of pace. You drained yet another drink and frowned at the empty vessel. Your thirst was gone, but you still craved something icy cold and refreshing. Something sweet. Something like a popsicle, an ice cream cone, or an ice cream sandwich. I was never big on like fruit-flavored popsicles. I really always liked ice cream. I can't eat it anymore because my stomach doesn't like it, but probably an ice cream cone. Nothing beats a classic creamy scoop of ice cream on a day like this. There was nothing like that to be found at home. You knew that without needing to look. Your moms didn't keep sweets in the house. Outside, there were plenty of places where such goodies could be obtained, but they were shops and demanded payment in exchange for their products. You sighed. You voiced your predicament out loud. You asked Shiloh for help. I'm gonna say this. I want an ice cream cone. Shiloh, who had been draped over the sofa, perked up.
Yeah.
That sounds good. We don't have anything like that in the house, and I don't have any money. Oh, let me check if I have any. Shiloh rummaged in his backpack and proudly produced an assortment of coins, plus a stray button. You set the button aside and counted the coins in neat piles. Just over $1. You announced this to Shiloh. He had almost certainly come to the same conclusion, but he'd been watching you expectantly. It's not enough. It's a start. I don't want to take his money, though. Shiloh beamed at you. We'll need to find some more. Okay. The two of you lifted couch cushions, stuck tiny hands down deep crevices in the sofa and under furniture, and scoured the back of drawers. Most of what you found was useless or gross. Bent paper clips, fluffy wisps of dust, or sandy crumbs, but every so often one of you would strike silver or bronze and add that to the growing pile of coins. Dusty and disheveled from checking every room and squinting into every tiny nook, the two of you finished pooling your finds. Shiloh held his breath as you counted the coins once again. $2.53 and 2 buttons. You didn't know what the second button had decided to join the party, or when, not what, but you were pleased with your successful haul to throw it out. Is that enough? You figured he knew the answer, but you appreciated him recognizing your authority on financial and ice cream matters. You straightened up before making your pronouncement. Yeah, we've got enough. You can now afford something at the shops. Just one thing, but that was infinitely better than none. Shiloh clapped his hands. Yay! The two of you dashed outside. The promise of sugar buoyed you onto your destination, where, breathless but happy, you stared at the overwhelming number of options. You knew what you wanted, but it wasn't just you who had contributed to the funds to get the treat. He seemed to notice your pause. Are you getting an ice cream cone? Shiloh asked as though he was entirely separate from the decision rather than someone with a stake in the outcome. Do you mind? Shiloh cocked his head to the side. It was your idea. You should choose. You went ahead and got what you wanted. Are you really sure it's okay? You tried to get something you both wanted anyway. Yeah, let's do this one. It wasn't fair for you to be the only one to decide when he had been a main factor in making this happen. Some of the money came directly from his backpack. What do you like? All of them. They're so good. You pressed further. But what do you really like? Popsicles or ice cream? Which is your favorite? Oh, it's so hard to pick. I don't know. Frustrated, you cut to the heart of the matter. You want me to choose? Yeah. And that was that. You got the dessert you wanted originally and hoped Shiloh would actually like it too. Finally, the reward for all your hard work was in your hands. You laughed at the soft ice cream. The sweetness perked you up. You held it out to Shiloh so he could take a turn. He shook his head.
You can finish it.
But you didn't have any. He didn't want any? After everything he did to help get it? That was weird. But you accepted the offer. You tried to include Shiloh. You hesitate. This one. Even if Shiloh said it was okay, every story you've ever seen on TV or read in a book said that sharing was caring. You stood your ground even as the treat started to trickle dangerously towards your fingers. It's only fair that you have some. We both bought it. But you want it more than I do, and getting to play was a lot of fun already. You can have it. That's more fair. You held it out to him. I want you to have some, even more than I want to finish it, so eat your part. Relenting, Shiloh took the treat and gave it a taste. His eyes lit up.
Thank you.
It's really good, thank you. You smiled, pleased with your good deed. You picked the best one. Did he mean that? Shiloh was always nice no matter what happened. Even if he hated it, you knew he wouldn't say so. Maybe he thought it was gross, and that's the real reason he didn't want to take some. You had no idea. You studied him as he ate a little more. He had every appearance of enjoying himself. Still weird. The two of you began to head back home as he ate. You walked side by side on the shore in silence, but your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It was almost as if Shiloh didn't know how to say what he felt, or was too afraid to. You figured that was his problem and didn't care. Are you scared of me? You thought that was kind of sad. Are we friends? Are we friends? Shiloh opened his eyes wide, seemingly caught off guard by the blunt question. Yeah, I think so. He says that, but friends should be able to talk to each other without being scared. If Shiloh wouldn't do that, were you really friends at all? He rubbed his hands together nervously over your non-reaction. You weren't sure how sorry he could be without knowing what he's even apologizing for, but you shook your head. You didn't do anything. It was true. Shiloh hadn't done something mean. He'd gone out of his way to make you happy. That didn't seem like it should be a bad thing, yet it bothered you. I just don't know if you like me. It's like it doesn't matter what I do. You're going to act the same. I could be anybody and you wouldn't care. No, I like you. I really, really like you, Christina. I want to be friends. Okay. You smiled hesitantly at him as his fidgeting ceased. Even though you weren't sure you believed him, this was only making things worse. You decided that maybe there were all types of friends. If Shiloh wasn't able to do things differently, this would have to be all right. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experience of spending the afternoon with just him. There had been good times, and there had been confusing ones. You were positive of one thing at least. The treat was delicious, and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to the neighborhood. There you spotted two very familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your presence known to them just as you saw the tears on Cove's face. You walked straight over, Shiloh at your heels. Once there, you defended Cove, took a moment to make a joke, accused Lizzie of causing trouble. I'm going to carefully ask what happened. Without a time machine, the only way you were going to find out what happened was by asking the witnesses. Lizzie might have done something, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time or even come to Cove's aid. You wanted to hear the story. Cove, what happened?
Christina.
Oh, he said my name! Oh, cool. I got yelled at. He took a deep, steadying breath. Some grandparents got mad at me. Aw, sorry. Lizzie jerked her head in the direction of a nearby house. Your heart sunk. You knew exactly what had happened. Every year, the same mean old couple rented out that condo for the summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have. They're like that with everyone. Even your mom struggled to find anything nice to say about them, but the elderly pair particularly took offense to kids. Oh, boomers. Yeah, Lizzie said. Lizzie drew herself up at that. She looked pointedly in your direction. Uh-huh, I was helping. That's cool. Is there anything I can do?
No,
I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson. There was a devilish glint in her eyes. What? You should ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. It'll be great because they're so slow. They'll never catch you. That's dumb. I don't want to go near them ever again.
You're just saying that because you're a chicken.
Lizzie, please! Cove glared but didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you. You're not a chicken, are you? Yeah, cluck cluck. You'd just rather avoid them? You thought they deserved worse? I would absolutely 100% not be the child to ding-dong dash any... Is that what they call it? Is that what the kids call it these days? Ding-dong dash? Was that what she said? I don't remember. You'd rather just avoid them. You looked at the house. Behind those closed doors looked two beings rich in years but poor in patience. Maybe they deserved retaliation. Maybe they didn't, but that punishment wouldn't be coming from you. It was safer to stay far away from them. You could live without the hassle. I'm not doing it either. Another chicken for the coop. This is a hen house now. If we're chickens, you're a lizard, Lizzie. She wagged her tongue at his face. Still better than a bird brain. Chicken. The condo door opened, revealing one of the two culprits. The old man's wizened face was set in a scowl, which was to say he looked exactly like he always did when you saw him. Maybe that was his normal face. What are you kids doing loitering outside my house? Get off my lawn, whippersnappers! Or maybe he was just in a terrible mood. Nothing. He repeated the word as if it was the greatest crime anyone could commit. Nothing good, more like. Get lost! It wasn't as if he owned the space outside the house, but Cove's eyes, still red from earlier tears, were wide and thought it would be best to heed the old man's command. Lizzie took off, with Shiloh immediately trailing after her without so much as a glance back in your direction. So much for your friendship. You waved your arm at Cove, summoning him to follow you, and ran after Lizzie. The old man's hollers propelled you all from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Only once you were safe did you notice the stitch in your chest and the ache in your legs. You flopped down, the blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who had taken the lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. The four of you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoy the feeling of cool grass against your skin.
Cove.
Hey, Cove. Cove lifted his head. I told you there were mean grandparents around here. Cove rolled his eyes, then decided this wasn't dismissive enough and rolled his whole body away from your sister. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting to Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you knew you'd be second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. And it was fine, you thought. You still felt a little sad after how much time you spent together today. And it was always annoying. I'm kind of more torn between these two, but I think I'm going to say sad. You had been hoping the two of you might become closer, but you had let it go. He was happy where he was. You closed your eyes, laid on your side, and relaxed. Some time passed with you like that. It felt good to take a real break. You moved on your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. The blanket of clouds reminded you of a thick throw you curled under on the cold, rainy days. You wondered if the clouds would be as soft. Then lazily floating on by, splitting from each other, merging and morphing into new shapes. You saw a dolphin. You saw a car. You saw an alpaca. You saw a smiley face. You saw cloud shapes. Dolphin! You saw a dolphin leaping through the sky. You nudged Cove and pointed to it. Look, a dolphin! Cove joined in on your gazing skywards. Yeah, I see it. Really? No, but I like dolphins. Hey! He chuckled at your reaction. All the sun's light faded from the sky and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The ocean, visible from the crest of the hill, beckoned with every sweep of the tide. Let's go to the beach. There was no argument from the other two. Shiloh was still Shiloh, and Cove would never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. You wanted to go there too. We're too tired. We're happy to do what the others wanted, objected to the plan. I don't know that I would necessarily want to go back there, but I would probably say we're happy to do what the others wanted. The beach wouldn't necessarily have been where you chose to go next, but that was what the others wanted. Then you weren't going to spoil the fun. You stepped into the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footsteps in the sand, too big to belong to any of you, were the only indication of how busy it had been only hours earlier. The four of you kicked shoes off and removed socks and walked along the water's edge. The waves tickled your feet. I wonder what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean with shampoo and everything. That would be bad for the fish.
Jeez.
I didn't say anyone would do it. Geez, you don't have to be serious about everything. You're the one who asked what would happen. That is what would happen. It'd hurt the fishes. I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Me too. Bubble baths are luxurious. You never heard Lizzie use that word before. Mommy loves to have bubbles in her bath. She'll turn the lights off and have candles. I'm gonna do that next time. Hey, when's your mom coming to pick you up anyway? Not for a while. She's busy. What about your dad? How come you never talk about him? Nobody does. Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about? You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed up by the waves. Even if Shiloh never seemed upset with this when this topic came up, it made you feel awkward just for having both of your moms. It's okay. I'm like Lizzie and Christina. I don't have a dad. But I don't have two moms. I just have one. She's really great. Oh, sorry. I only have one now, too. My mom isn't here. She's back home. It's just my dad with me.
Sorry.
Aw, I never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom is gone. Cove nodded. You joked about Shiloh's mom getting together with Cove's dad. No! I would absolutely 100% never ever do that. Even if they're all different, our parents are good in their own ways. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and sodden sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, foot still outstretched from the kick. Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves to make a splash of his own. Shiloh scurried out of the Cove's spray zone with a grin. You retaliated. Used your foot to smack the water pooling around you, sending an arc of sea foam flying back into your sister. You laughed as she sputtered, some of the salty water having landed in her mouth. She spat it out. Yuck. Lizzie chased you, intent on revenge. You dashed up and down the coast, taking it in turns to be the predator and the prey, as well as joining forces to take down Shiloh or Cove. Alliances were silently forged and wordlessly broken. Everything was fair game in war. Shiloh's brief explanation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming up from the rain. As you all hurried over to check on him, his hair was plastered to his head and his silk clothes clung. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see it. That was crazy. Are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over. Way to go, Shiloh, you Dumbo. You offered him some help up. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. Lizzie was too busy snickering to notice and held her hand out to Shiloh, too. He reached over and took it. Slowly, he started to pull himself up from the ground. Then he slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down, just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them. Sorry. What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? You thought they must be low, but there's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose, then pretend it was an accident, especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite, right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend on let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up again as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove from laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made the journey back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand in your wake. Damp clothes may have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung side to side as a cool breeze flowed past. Your moms were outside chatting to Cove's dad. We're back! Your mom's faces fell as they took in the state you were all in, ranging from messy to soaked.
No.
Elizabeth, is that all you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. They certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home? Cold and filthy? Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Boy, do I know that! I remember I was always the first to get yelled at when I was a kid. I try to be a little bit more fair, because I have two kids, and I try to be a little bit more fair. I try not to blame my older son too much, because, if it's not his fault, I don't want to make him feel like it is. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. You've been out making memories, Bucko. I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast arm to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed that even that had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and had just as much fun. That might be right, kids. What can you do? That might be right, kids. What can you do? Come on, Cove. Let's get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want the cast to have to be reset. Cove winced at the thought.
Okay.
That a boy. Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove up off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sand was already transferring from Cove onto him, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got a reassuring pat on the back for his trouble.
Take care.
Good night, Cove. Thanks for the talk, Cliff. Night, library family, and Shiloh too. Well, we'd better do what we can to fix you guys up too. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs bathroom. Yes, Mom. Okay, Lizzie's mom. Don't worry about stopping to wipe your feet on the mat this time. That won't do much good tonight. Sitting on an old beach towel your mommy had found, you waited in the hall. Until you were less sandy, you weren't allowed to go to your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. Felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would watch first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packed away in his mom's car. Miss Fields had come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without that hat on for once. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to go in the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath as she had hoped. This was a no fun allowed cleanup session, at least that's what she claimed. Not much longer and it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any other events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Okay, well, we've only got 4 left, so I will probably do these other ones, or at least most of them, next time. But hopefully you all enjoyed. This is normally the part of the episode where I say to, like, follow me on social media and stuff, but again, content creation is kind of starting to take a backseat for me, so really don't worry about any of that. Just enjoy the videos, and I will see you later.